Welcome to NHK Newsline. I'm Gino Tani in Tokyo. The U.S. president says his administration will start revoking a range of special treatments given to Hong Kong. It comes after China decided to introduce new security legislation in the territory as a crackdown on anti-government activities.
The Chinese government's move against Hong Kong is the latest in a series of measures that are diminishing the city's long-standing and very proud status. This is a tragedy for the people of Hong Kong, the people of China, and indeed the people of the world.
Trump said Hong Kong is no longer sufficiently autonomous to warrant preferential treatment. He accused Beijing of replacing its one country, two systems framework with one country, one system. He said the move will affect the full range of agreements between the U.S. and Hong Kong, from extradition to export controls. Trump also indicated that steps will be taken to sanction officials deemed to be involved in eroding the territory's autonomy. And he also hinted at plans to further limit Chinese firms' activities in the United States. China maintains the new security legislation for Hong Kong is an internal affair and is expected to react sharply to Washington's move. Meanwhile, Trump also announced the United States will be terminating its relationship with the World Health Organization, which he says is too China-centric. He said funds for the WHO will be redirected to other organizations. U.S. officials have also raised their concerns about the Hong Kong security legislation on the international stage. They joined their British counterparts in criticizing China at an informal meeting of the UN Security Council. The 15-member council addressed the issue in a closed virtual session. The U.S. and Britain told the gathering that China should not be allowed to violate international law. The two countries have sought a formal open meeting, but were denied after China blocked their request. Kelly Craft, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, reportedly urged council members to stand up for the rights of the people of Hong Kong. China's UN ambassador, Zhang Jun, said the legislation is not a matter for the Security Council because it does not pose a threat to international peace and security. He said the real source of trouble in the world is America's abuse of force. A former U.S. police officer in the city of Minneapolis has been charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter in the death of an unarmed black man. Footage of the incident has triggered protests and violence across the country, with tensions in several cities coming to a boil. A warning: the following video contains graphic material that may be disturbing to some viewers. 46-year-old George Floyd died on Monday after a white officer, Derek Chauvin, kneeled on his neck for more than 8 minutes during an arrest. Eyewitness video shows Floyd complaining repeatedly he can't breathe. Anger over the death sparked 4 nights of chaos in Minneapolis and elsewhere, with protesters in the city setting fire to the police station where the officers were based and stores and businesses looted. Chauvin was one of 4 officers at the victim's arrest. They were all fired. Authorities say they are investigating the other 3, but with prosecutors taking 4 days to charge Chauvin, many say Floyd's death shows continued police racism toward black people. Demonstrations have spread to other major U.S. cities, including Houston, Los Angeles, and Atlanta. A curfew has been imposed in Minneapolis, with the National Guard on the streets. Police in Manhattan took more than 40 people into custody. Moving on to Tokyo, a metropolis in the midst of reopening after curbing the spread of the coronavirus. The governor says she has decided to ease restrictions further after this weekend.
We are moving to the next step starting June 1st.
The change will allow businesses like gyms, theaters, and retail shops dealing in non-essential goods to reopen, but restaurants and cafes will still be asked to stop serving food and drinks by 10 p.m. Staff at this sports club are busy preparing for their reopening. They've set up partitions between the machines and are disinfecting high-traffic surfaces.
We're taking thorough measures to prevent infections so that our customers feel safe and secure here.
The number of new infections in Tokyo has been rising in recent days. 22 new cases were reported on Friday, but officials say they are also considering the impact of the restrictions on the economy and the condition of the local health care system. Another part of the country is also seeing an increase of cases. Officials are taking steps to reverse the trend.
Our city is in the middle of a second wave. We'll do our utmost to contain the virus by asking everyone who had close contact with the infected to undergo PCR tests.
The southwestern city of Kitakyushu has reported 69 infections in the last 7 days after going more than 3 weeks with no cases. A junior high school in the city of nearly 1 million has closed for disinfection because one of the students tested positive. More than 16,800 people have tested positive across the country, and about 890 of them have died. Governor Andrew Cuomo says New York City remains on track for businesses to start reopening on June 8th.
Phase 1 should bring about 400,000 employees back to work in New York City.
The state has set 4 phases of reopening. The first applies to industries such as construction, agriculture, forestry, fishing and hunting, manufacturing, curbside retail pickup and drop-off, and wholesale trade. Areas that successfully complete this stage can move to the second phase after about 2 weeks. This includes the reopening of offices, the real estate sector, in-store retail, commercial building management, and barbershops and salons. Some parts of the state have already partially reopened. Cuomo said reopening means embracing a safer new normal. He stressed people will be wearing masks. People will be socially distant. People in Turkey have been told they can resume public prayer after a 2.5-month suspension due to the coronavirus. Authorities say the peak of the outbreak in the country has passed. Worshippers returned to selected mosques for Friday prayers for the first time since mid-March. About 1,000 people wearing face masks prayed at this mosque in the largest city of Istanbul. The government has set conditions for the resumption. Gatherings are limited to mosques with outdoor spaces. Worshippers are required to undergo temperature checks and maintain physical distance.
I wanted to pray inside the mosque, but I guess it can't be helped. I look forward to the opportunity before too long.
Total coronavirus infections in Turkey exceed 160,000, the highest in the Middle East. But recent daily increases have been around 1,000, and that's about 20% of the peak. Elsewhere in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia has decided to reopen mosques from Sunday, except for those in the holy city of Mecca. Mosques in Egypt remain closed. Those were the main stories for this hour. That's the news this hour. I'm Gene Otani. For all of us here at NHK Newsline, thanks very much for joining us.